Welcome back. Well, ever since Mahmoud Abbas formed the emergency government, he's enjoyed a great deal of international support, particularly from the United States and the European Union. The other members of the Middle East Quartet, the United Nations and Russia, also make it clear that they support the Palestinian president. The quartet is currently meeting in Portugal to discuss the role of the group's new envoy to the Middle East, Tony Blair. Also on the agenda, a new US-led push for peace talks. US President George Bush announced on Monday he wants to convene an international peace conference in the coming months. But Bush says the conference would be limited to those who accept the quartet's principles. And that's likely to mean leaving out Hamas, which refuses to accept one of the quartet's key negotiating points, recognising Israel. This despite warnings that further isolating Hamas and Gaza will only backfire. Well, we're still joined by our guests. In London, Azam Tamimi, Director of the Institute of Islamic Political Thought. In Ramallah, Mustafa Barghouti, former Information Minister and the head of the Palestinian Initiative Party. And also in Ramallah, Jamal Nazal, who's a Fatah spokesman. If I could come to you, Mr. Barghouti, could this backfire, the support that Mr. Abbas is getting from the international community? In other words, could Palestinians see him as enforcing other people's agenda?
Well, this should not happen, and I think he's aware of that. And at the end of the day, what he needs from the international community is not only support for his dispute with Hamas. What he mostly needs is support from the international community for the main dispute we have in this country, which is against Israeli occupation and against the fact that Israel is not planning by any means to withdraw from the occupied territories and allow a viable, sovereign and real state to take its place. And that is, in my opinion, the biggest challenge. If Mr. Abbas could mobilize international support to support his cause of ending occupation, ending the apartheid system that Israel has created, and force Israel to leave East Jerusalem, then he will be perceived as a hero. But if all the support he gets is only for internal Palestinian disputes and fighting, then of course he will be in a very big trouble. And that is where he has to be quite careful. And this is the essence of the discussions we just had now, a few minutes ago, inside the Central Council of the PLO, which is that the main duty of the PLO is not internal fighting between Palestinians, although it must end this internal dispute and legitimacy must be respected. But the main duty of the PLO is how to organize the Palestinian struggle to end occupation and achieve Palestinian rights. At the end of the day, any competition between any other political force and Hamas depends largely on how much this competitive force, whether it's Fatah or us or anybody else, is capable of organizing Palestinian struggle and popular effort to end occupation and achieve the national rights.
OK, Azam Tamimi, we've talked there about the kind of support that Mr. Abbas is getting. What support is Hamas getting these days?
Well, whatever support Mahmoud Abbas gets from the international community will do him very little good. They supported before his friend Dahlan, and they provided him and his group with millions of dollars, with equipment, with training, and that did them no good. And the ostracization of Hamas will do it very little harm. This has been the story of Hamas since 1987, since it was founded. Year after year, all sorts of ploys were used in order to undermine it, and it only grew more credible and stronger. And that is simply because of its loyalty to the Palestinian dream. Whereas Mahmoud Abbas and his Fatah movement have betrayed the Palestinian dream, Hamas is loyal to the Palestinian dream, and this is what matters.
If I could bring you in, Jamal Nazal, isolation and pressure is not going to make Hamas go away, says Mr. Tamimi. What do you say to that?
I believe that Mr. Azam Tamimi is an embodiment of the unremitting mendacity of Hamas propagandist spokespersons. I think he is a falsifier of facts. It is, and as a matter of fact, the USA has not paid a single dollar to the Palestinian Authority ever since Mr. Abbas has been elected in office. This is something that is a factual assertion of what is happening. Now he is drawing a picture that is totally false. We have not received any equipments from anybody. President Abbas has not been receiving money from any Western countries which came as direct aid to the Palestinian Authority. On the other hand, Hamas has received $400 million from the state of Qatar, from which you are talking now. decide. Mr. Zahar, the former foreign minister of Hamas, has said that he had received $120 million from Iran. In total, there are $700 million unaccounted for, which Hamas has received, spending to establish a totally illegal army, that is the so-called executive force of the Hamas. This force was equipped by cars, headquarters, arms, uniforms, salaries. It has taken many millions of dollars at a time when people did not have enough money for their salaries. Hamas has created its own army only for toppling the Palestinian Authority, which is a democratic and pluralistic kind of political system that has been replaced by a totalitarian kind of regime, a one-party system of Hamas. Now, I want to hear Mr. Tamimi condemning the capital crimes which have been committed by Hamas against its own people, sticking nails into the legs of people, throwing people from high buildings. I want to hear you, Mr. Tamimi, condemning all the violence, the crimes which Hamas has committed against the Palestinian people. You live in a democratic country and you should be committed to democratic principles. I did not hear you committed to the democratic principles. I see double standards in your words when you talk about Mahmoud Abbas doesn't having the right to call for early elections.
Okay,
you are a supporter of Hezbollah.
Let me just stop you there, Mr. Tamimi.
I
what do you say
just
to
need
that?
to continue this sentence. One sentence. May I continue just one sentence? In Lebanon, the people have gone to the street to demonstrate for early elections. In Turkey, very soon, early elections will be called. Why is this accepted in Turkey, in Lebanon, but not accepted in Palestine? This is the double standard of Tamimi, which I am talking about.
Okay, let me bring you back in, Mr. Tamimi. What do you say to that?
I have nothing to say to him.
So what he was asking you about...
Because you can't, you run out of argument. You run out of arguments. That's it.
So would you suggest that what Hamas has done is right?
These guys have gone berserk. Mahmoud Abbas, Nazal, everybody. They've just gone mad. They've gone mad. This is not between me and him. We are trying to analyze the situation. And they've just gone mad. Look at their responses. Totally insane. Insane.
Do you think that there's any room, given the kind of...
from the US.
Okay, just given the kind of level of discussion that there is, do you think that it's actually going to be possible to have talks between two sides? Let me just ask Mr. Barghouti that. Do you think that these two sides can actually be brought together in talks now?
Well, of course, each of them is absolutely angry now, and you can feel that. I think not just hear it, but I think both sides forget that 1 month ago only, or a little bit more than 1 month ago, we were together in one unity government, one national unity government, and they were together in Mecca signing an agreement.
So what will it take?
And I think this
to get them back to the table?
Beyond any limits. In my opinion, what will it will take? I think eventually both sides will realize two matters. First, that their own interest is in national unity, and the interest of the Palestinian people is in finding a way for national unity without jeopardizing legitimacy or democracy, and without allowing any violation of the rules of democracy. And I think both sides will realize very quickly that neither of them can finish the other side, and that no external force, whether it's a force that is supporting Fatah or a force that is supporting Hamas, wants anything beyond using the cause of Palestine for their own sake. We have to be very careful about these external interventions. We have to be careful about how to solidify our unity, to concentrate on our cause, and not to become part of a regional or international agenda in a fight that is taking place severely in the region and worldwide. Second point is that both sides must accept the principle of democracy, and democracy means respecting each other, tolerating pluralism, and not using force to change the political reality, accepting that there is nothing wrong with pluralism, with having differences. What is wrong is to solve differences in forceful or by using power.
Okay, Jamal Nazal, just very briefly, do you think that you could end up with a situation where people are so fed up with both sides that they end up, if there are elections, voting for someone in the middle?
They may try. Well, we stand for the democratic choice of the people. We say, let's go back to the people. Let the people decide, because this political system is probably not working. Now, I respect and appreciate the views of Mr. Barghouti. He is an opponent to Palestinian President Abbas, but he uses arguments, justifiable arguments, acceptable arguments, reasonable ones, to convince his constituency. He doesn't resort to violence. That's why we accept him as part of the Palestinian political system. Now, I have seen him yesterday and also today participating in the discussions of the Central Council of the Palestinian Authority. Now, this is what Hamas cannot do. Hamas does not accept the other opinion. It is time for the people to realize that Hamas, by conducting the coup d'etat, has gone against the choice of the people. We say, let the people decide. Hamas says, we don't.
All right, I must stop you there. We're running out of time. But thank you, all three of you, for joining us. And thank you for watching this edition of Inside Story. Do stay with us on Al Jazeera.